Welcome to Status Quo. I have no idea what's going on with Quo. My name's Cameron, and this is the ERN Podcast. I'm joined today by Jon, Anna, and Emma. Welcome to the ERN Podcast, Emma.
Hello, glad to be here.
Cool.
And Jon. Jon hasn't been here before yet.
Yeah, and welcome Jon, too.
Hello. Hi.
We actually... Funny enough, we mentioned Jon on the last episode, and we managed to pull him into this one.
Do I want to know what you said last time?
I think they were making fun of you for. We're not making fun, just poking fun at you finding bugs in software.
Yes, I am the unofficial bug finder.
We were talking about how useful you are for breaking our software for us.
Gift that keeps on giving.
Anyway, so this episode of the ERN Podcast is sponsored by WACN Technologies, as usual.
But is it, though?
I would hope so. You're the one who owns WACN Technologies.
What do I have to pay you?
I don't even know. Your presence.
Well, what if I don't do that? What if I go away?
I don't know. Anyway, so Marley isn't here today. Marley had some events pop up last minute. She'll be here next week. But anyway, so I think we should get right to it. This episode will be more of a news-oriented one like the first episode. So we'll just start off right off the bat. So news in EAS, no national EAS test in 2022.
Yeah. They were saying that's because they're working on making a better system for what was it? Was it like recording like data, making sure that things actually did what they're supposed to do?
Yeah, I think I saw that too.
I also think I heard they're gonna make a better way to like report for public usage, like with the WIA test.
Yeah, because I know that was one thing that they wanted to do after the last national test, especially on WIA.
What if they're juking us? They're saying there's no national test, but then like suddenly test.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's an unexpected test. I guess that's the real test.
Yeah,
that is the
for
best
bonus
type of
points.
test.
For bonus points, unexpected live code EAN test.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the fire drills in school that they didn't tell the students about.
Mm-hmm. We had freaking fire tests in my school that literally they wouldn't even tell the teachers about. So whenever the fire alarm went off, we would get the full brunt of teacher-student freak out, and it was hilarious.
Oh yeah, I got a good story about that actually. So there was one time. So my school was adding an addition over the past couple of years, and they were still trying to set up the fire equipment in the welding room of our school, and they didn't set something up correctly, so it went off in the middle of the day, like in the middle of only like second period, so really early in the morning for some people. And so everyone evacuates the building. We all go in, right? So literally not even joking, 30 seconds after people started entering the building, it went off again. Same alarm. And let's just say it was rinse and repeat like 4 or 5 times. But each time we had to evacuate again because it was another alarm.
So that happened at my school, except when they pulled the alarm for the drill, they broke the little thing that comes down, so it wouldn't properly reset. And how it works at my school district is that they have to call the fire department if it's not a drill. And so all the time during the school day, it would just randomly go off, and they would have to like go on the PA and be like, "Ignore the alarm. There's nothing actually happening." And so it happened during
the blaringly loud alarm.
It was EST, and it happened during dismissal too. Like it happened exactly when everyone was leaving the building for dismissal. So absolute chaos. Good time.
I guess tests are more effective though when it's random. I wonder if that's something that FEMA or FCC could do for EAS tests. That would be interesting.
Well, they should.
What I feel like they should do is, they already have codes that they can use. Like they have the national silent test. So it's like they could just randomly through the year have a system that will just, hey, it's a random time in the year, we're just going to send an NST.
Yeah.
Which it just have like 30 seconds of silence in there. or actually more like 10. 10 would be more proper. So it's just like header, attention tone, 10 seconds of silence, EOM, EOM, EOM. And it's just like that would work. Just have it random. We don't know whenever it's going to happen. No one knows when it's going to happen. It just happens. That would be
awesome if it would be kind of like a randomly generated like RWT, but instead it's an NST.
So
yeah, and it's just once a year. That would be really cool.
The biggest concern I have of that is especially in some visual broadcast settings where like if it is like a primary entry point type test and people would like it should at least be known that it is a test, like at least like it would say that it is a test because if there's nothing there for 10 seconds, it's probably not the best because people get confused as heck.
The alert translation is National Silent Test. So test is in the name.
At least it should at least be said in an audio type standpoint as well because like EAS is supposed to be meant to be visual and audio, so it would be best to say like this is a silent test, this is only a test type of thing.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
The following is a silent test of the emergency alert system. Bert.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like it would be definitely an interesting way. I mean, I know probably it won't happen, but I feel like it would be a great way to test the system in a more logical sense, just because then you can get like the real, because if there was an EAN, no one would know when it would happen.
Actually a better code is the NAT code, the National Audible Test.
Yeah.
There's that one too. It's like they have these two codes. They're kind of exist in the protocol. Like some encoders actually do include them. Some don't.
Are they apps? Are they approved by the FCC? Like, are they actually mandated on a code? Or are they not?
No, I think they were, but they aren't anymore.
Probably decommissioned codes.
Yeah, but it's like they could easily just implement them again.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm sure most index nowadays still have them in there just in case it comes back. Mm-hmm. Plus, with a lot of digital index, it's just a software update. It's fixed.
Hey, I know that my software index has them.
WACN Technologies Endec.
Yeah, go check it out. You can't get it, but check it out anyway. There's nowhere to check it out, but check it out anyway. I really need to make a website for that thing.
You already have a website for the thingy.
I need to make a better website for the thingy.
You could check out the current website at what is it?
acrn.gwes-eas.network. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. That sounds right.
Well, you can tell how much we sponsor ERN, judging how ERN hosts us.
Yeah, it's a reverse sponsorship.
The ultimate double standard.
Mutually beneficial sponsorship.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so much sponsor that both sponsor each other.
How it works.
Yeah.
I am sponsored with existence. You guys I sponsor you with code.
With free things that go beep.
Yes.
Yeah,
Although I could start charging you, but at a discount. I'll charge you $1, but you only need to pay 50 cents.
How do you do that through PayPal?
It's the employee discount.
You don't.
Yeah, so I know I didn't put this in the rundown, so this might be a little unexpected for you guys. But so for the viewers, I actually reached out to Daz about the DASDEC 3, and we do have a launch date.
Yes.
I think, yeah.
Oh.
June 1st.
June.
June 1st is when more information will come out. They said that they will have an informational packet. We'll cover that on the ERN podcast, so stay tuned for that.
They said they'll have an informational packet, and it's going to release on their site on June 1st. Like it's the formal launch date.
Yep, so, that's what they were telling me.
But here's the thing: who would need the DASDEC 3? Like, who would need it?
We do at my radio station.
Yeah,
desperately.
We honestly, the only people I think that the DAS 3 benefits right now is cable stations.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because that is their biggest market, because it allows them to actually remove quite a bit of their SD to
EAS
HD
infrastructure.
gear. Yeah, the SD to HD gear, the upscaling for that. If they're using the DAS to generate those scrolls, right now they have to do like the DAS 2 and DAS 1 generates a standard definition image, but the DAS 3 generates an HD image using HDMI, which is way easier to plug into equipment nowadays than or even convert to like SDI. It's way easier. So
I love to see Cox get that inside their god awful scrolls and audio. Oh my gosh.
We don't talk about those.
You haven't lived until you've heard Cox EAS. It's just abysmal.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, DAS 3, stay tuned for that. We will cover it right here on the Year-End Podcast. So hit the subscribe button on whatever you listen to your podcasts on, and we'll get it within the next couple weeks.
Yeah,
that'll be an exciting one to cover.
You may even get an early adopter radio station here.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Daz, we got a customer for you. Anyway, so let's move on to our next topic here. This is more geared toward Anna. So in the last episode, you may remember that Anna was rebuilding the stage in the middle of the podcast recording.
Yes.
It worked. Successful.
Yeah. So in that podcast, right before the podcast, I completely took apart the stage because I was making sure all the components were in good quality. They were. I might recap the thing later, but other than that, it seems fine. But I teamed up with another person in ERN, Lawson, and I bought him a ROM reader, and we managed to get the ROM read of his Sage and rebuild it on my end because the ROM on my Sage was actually missing. And it's an older ROM. It's not their newest ROM, but yeah, it actually worked. We managed to boot up the Sage, and it had all the newest settings, or it had all the old settings of the old station that had it. And I pulled the settings, and we have them all saved. I just need a new clock battery, and this Sage will be good as new.
One of the
and you said you got it from WOKW, right?
Yes, WOKW in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
I have their settings. They had some pretty interesting settings. Like, for example, Tornado was under like a civil filter instead of like weather, but it's very obviously weather. I have no idea why, but it just is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hopefully they never had to relay any tornado warnings.
Well, it's Pennsylvania. They most likely did.
Yeah.
They probably did yesterday, too. This station is based northeast of Pittsburgh, actually.
Yeah. So, who knows? I don't know what they have now. I'm going to guess blue box because they replaced a gray box. And, yeah, it works. I'm surprised. So, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
I may actually be able to
if you
be able to tell you what they've got.
Hey, Anna, if you actually want to find out, WOKW is actually a streamer.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out later.
Find out next week on the ERN podcast what the answer is.
Yeah.
Place your bets.
I can actually give you the answer this week on the ERN podcast. They do have a blue box.
Hey.
Look at that.
Look at that drop-in replacement. Good job, Sage.
Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, the gray box is a really good end deck, but like after they stopped supporting it, the blue box was a really good upgrade. I mean, I think you could actually migrate your settings from one to the other. I think if you have the right ROM.
There's no migration tool, but you can just easily duplicate your settings on NDEC set D and just load it onto the NDEC. Yeah, it's actually quite efficient.
Which is good for Sage though, considering that it's really is just plug and play.
One thing that will be interesting though is, hey Cam, whenever they release the DAS 3, they're also going to be releasing or they probably will release the version 5 firmware. You have a DAS deck.
I might have to reach out to them, see if we can get the software update.
Yeah, so we might be able to do like an in-depth look at the version 5 software for
that'd be fun.
for the DAS deck 2.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
I've seen quite a few things. I think it'd be.
So-
I think it's more of just one of those you just kind of have to poke around and see.
Yeah, they're the first thing that they're doing, which is a sigh of relief for me, is they're finally upgrading the OS to 64-bit, which is
I heard.
much needed. The OS that they have been using was like CentOS 9 32-bit, which is ancient, and they said that they're upgrading to 64-bit. I don't know what direct operating system they're updating to. I know it is CentOS, or no. It has to be a RHEL based, and it is 64-bit. So either we're looking at a newer version of CentOS, newer version of Red Hat, or maybe even Fedora.
Yeah,
or possibly Rocky, that new community-led attempt to kind of duplicate what CentOS was.
Yeah. All I know is it's 64-bit, and it's probably RHEL based because they all have been RHEL based.
Another big
RPM
bonus.
Live, baby.
Another big bonus of the new upgrade is they're upgrading the user interface to be slightly more reasonable, which is probably a good thing because the old one was, in my opinion, pretty bad. In my opinion,
you get used to it after a while. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
it was an old UI. It was meant for being good, but like now with our modern way of like making everything rounded, I mean,
Modern philosophies.
Yeah. I feel like, in my opinion, it's kind of the exact same as the old, but just reskinned. And I would have preferred a full refresh. They have some bits of software that they released for other units. Like there's the unit that basically is a Raspberry Pi in a box that I think it controls like an automatic switcher or something. That UI looks clean. Like it's quite beautifully clean. Like that, I would have loved to see a UI like that on the DAS deck. And I know the login screen for that one is the exact same. So it's like, why didn't they? It would have looked way better. I feel like it might be because of how they're doing it. Because I feel like, honestly, what they probably did was an actual just a refresh. Because they actually said they wanted it to be somewhat similar. But I don't know. I would like at least an option for a newer, like completely redone UI that's just more efficient. Because, like, in my opinion, the original DAS and from what looks like the new setup, it feels clunky to me. Mm-hmm. Like, there's also some things that I would like. For example, like one of the things is on the DAS firmware, on the software, if you wanted to encode a demo encoded alert from like the sent or the outgoing page, whatever it's called, you need to go to a specific tab to even get that button. Why can't it be in all of them? You know?
Yeah.
It's small things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've toyed around with it a little bit.
Well, they also did say all of that was quite experimental, so it might be changing. Who knows? It will be interesting to see what happens.
They're just going to hit us with a complete design refresh and just
it's going to look amazing. Yeah, it's going to look like in my opinion, I feel like more index that use web pages should look like the Blue Box. Yeah. The Blue Box's web interface is like, it's quite old, but it looks modern. Like,
yeah.
If you look, their interface really hasn't changed all that much since the Blue Box's release. It's just every time they've added on a new feature, it just gets added into the web page. But it still looks relatively modern.
It's an elegant interface for a more civilized age.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I would like to see something like that from DAS. If not, like, hey DAS, you should reach out to software developers so we can make like a new skin, you know? Like, imagine that it's like a new tab, like subdivision part where you can like upload a skin to the DAS.
Oh my goodness.
That would be cool. I mean,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Like that's more of just an enthusiast perspective, but
yeah.
Which
I mean, imagine
enthusiasts.
imagine if you could have like a drop down menu for everything. Like
That's one thing I wish Daz
like,
had is a lot more drop down menus for like just options that are all the same.
Yeah. I feel like the DAS could also have a refresh with the UI for their settings, because at this point there's so many settings. Like for an example, one thing that I was talking about earlier in a separate server was a lot of stations nowadays that have DAS decks. They have all the settings set to default because honestly, a lot of people don't know how to use the DAS deck interface, and it doesn't help that the more features that they add on, they're kind of just dropping them into the interface. They're not giving you a super great explanation for what they do. Like for some things in the manual, it's like, how vague can we make this? It's like,
well, at least DAS support is really good.
Yeah, DAS support is great, but
if you really want to know how bad the it is, sometimes there's a DC station that still has the default call sign of just DAS deck.
Yeah,
it happens.
But
in my experience, like once in a blue moon, you're gonna run across like a blue box or an easy that still has its default sender ID and whatnot. But I definitely feel like if I'm going to run into that scenario, like 9 times out of 10, it's going to be DAS deck.
Yeah. For example, like most of it is DAS deck because it's like the menu. There's so many menus. It's ridiculous. I like less menus and more explanation. For an example, on the vague explanation, if you look at the manual for TDX audio, it just says, click this button to turn on TDX audio, and doesn't explain what TDX audio is. TDX is actually really cool, though. But it is,
yeah.
I would have liked a better explanation for what it was. Because like we didn't know we didn't know what it did until Cam turned it on.
Yeah.
Because other than that, it's just like, this button turns on TDX. What is it? Like
if you put in TDX on
the memo.
If you put in TDX on Wikipedia, you get an Alaska Native Corporation on St. Paul Island.
Yeah. What I would like is have it so, let's say you hover your mouse over it, it can give you like an explanation, like a little pop-up that will give you an explanation. For example, I've been screwing around with 3D printing lately. There was a plugin that I got for Cura, which is a 3D model slicer, that all it does is it does that. It in your settings options, it will give you descriptions for what each setting does. And it is actually the most useful thing I've ever done, because like I was sitting here messing around with a setting called jerk, not knowing what jerk was, and then I installed this software, hovered my mouse over it, and it has a full-on explanation. This is what jerk is. And if it doesn't give you enough area for that explanation, it just gives you a little button. Click here to learn more. And it will take you to a link that you can read on for what that actually does. For something like TDX or Halo, that would be really cool. Because like Halo is another one of those things that it's like we don't know a lot about. I know a bit about it because I actually hunted down, like it took me half an hour to find documents that properly explained what it was. But it's like Halo, it's like the way that Gabe explained it is it's like a virtual machine management interface, but for DAS decks.
Yes, and that's what I've heard is you can manage multiple DAS decks a little easier.
You know what's
you wouldn't
really
know that
funny?
because they don't tell you.
You know what's really funny about you talking about this is that Sage thought of that years ago. They already thought of that years ago.
Yeah.
On the index set, and I probably believe the index set D program, to the right of the save button, there's like a little mouse and a question mark. If you click that and click on any setting on the EdXet application, it
Yeah.
will tell you like it's like a whole like box of like information. Like I can click on like one of them, like the call sign, and it's like the call sign sent by the EdX. You can set this to any characters and letters, including dots and stuff like that. And like it says, if you have multiple stations, you can go to the MSRP tab and adjust it that way as well.
Something
they thought
like,
of that.
Yeah. Imagine
They thought of
something
that.
like that, but for the web interface on the DAS deck. That would be the most helpful thing ever. And I hope that they do something like that. Knowing DAS, they probably won't. But hey, if anybody from DAS is listening to this stream, there's an idea. Please, for the love of God, do that. I still don't know some of the settings on the DAS, and I've been screwing around with DAS for years now.
I think I kind of got it.
Yeah.
I'm getting there.
Not all of them, though.
Yeah.
Some of them are, like, extremely vague. At least...
A little extra documentation would be nice. At least on, like, some of the more, like, niche ones.
I'll give DAS one thing. They have better documentation than Trilithic did for the Easy Plus. Because Trilithic literally would have documentation. Like, first of all, they didn't update their documentation so far as I saw from version 5. The Easy Plus systems ended at version 8.09.2. And they hadn't updated the documentation from 0.5 or the 5.0. Which tells you a little bit of how outdated their documentation was. Like, literally, their documentation would have buttons that did not correspond to the actual software you were using. And even better, they would have buttons that didn't exist, or straight up documentation for areas that didn't exist on the encoder anymore. It was a separate daughter board that they didn't tell you was part of a separate daughter board. For example, one option on the Easy Plus was remote GPI, which is input. So you've got two different kinds of general purpose I/O, which is GPIO. You've got input and you've got output. Most things are output. That is like you send a signal on that output and you can like control a relay or something like that. General purpose input tends to be a little bit more useful though, because for example, that is on your Sage, the manual override, where you can send a signal on that and send a weekly, or you can send a signal on that and I think you can cancel an alert. I don't know. Point is, general purpose input allows you to remotely control the encoder. And they have documentation in the Easy's manual for general purpose input. Do this to control the general purpose input. They don't tell you it's part of a card you can't get.
Yeah. I think I've heard of that before.
Yeah, that's why I've been hunting down one of those GPI cards, because I've only ever seen like 3 Easy Pluses with them on there. And every time I've seen them, they're like way expensive. But it's like GPI would be super helpful. For example, Evan has a GPI card, and he used it with his amateur radio club, where he actually teamed up with his amateur radio club to create a bit of software to link the entire repeater net. But what it would do is he could use a GPI hold off on the Easy. Basically, it was a little... he had a little switch hooked up to his transmitter, so it's like for X amount of seconds, hold this switch closed, and what it would do is it would not send an alert until like 10 seconds of dead air. But and then it would come on and say, "This is his call sign. Please stand by for an emergency alert message," and it would play the alerts without sending the headers over the thing using GPI. Like it was incredibly complex and amazing, and like that would be really cool. But it's like they didn't tell you as part of a separate card. They just tell you how to set it up in the software to a software that doesn't exist anymore. That's at least better than that.
Especially working in a TV station myself, definitely a lot more products could have documentation.
Yes. Documentation is key.
It really is, especially you always gotta, like, if you're like a hardware or software company, you always gotta assume that the person on the other side will not understand a word you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because speaking from experience of working at a radio station, they didn't understand it until I came in.
Yeah. I mean, whenever Emma showed up, their Gorman Redlick box was off.
Yeah, and had been for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And they didn't realize it because nobody told them. And they didn't understand. Speaking of Emma's Gorman Redlick box.
Yep. So Emma was actually telling us about this a couple days ago, actually. So legacy GR cap decks sometimes will not receive alert ready alerts correctly. And their response was too long of a message.
Yeah, that is the word that I got from Gorman Reddick's tech support. I've been exchanging emails with them for a while now because I noticed that the software on our GR cap deck at my radio station, the radio station I work at, Civil Radio, would crash every so often. And like, it makes no sense to me, truth be told. Like, as far when I think of buffer overflows, I think of like I think of like the kill screens in Pac-Man, not a cap deck. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, if they're having a buffer overflow, that actually tells you that the GR cap deck software isn't actually designed all that great. Because if you're designing a cap software from this is taking it from somebody who has designed a cap software, you want to make sure that instances like that cannot happen. You need your box to be able to run 24/7, 365, no problems whatsoever, because it is designed to warn people about like life safety alerts. You don't want that to fail whenever it is needed most.
Mm-hmm.
Or else you're going to, at the minimum, you're going to not serve the public interest. And you're certainly, if you're particularly unaware, going to end up like they were with a non-functional unit for 4.5 years.
Here's one thing that kind of terrifies me. What if they use the alert ready in that time for something like incredibly dangerous? Let's say, I don't know if there's any nuclear power plants up there, but let's say is one. Let's say theoretically there is one and it malfunctioned. Let's say somebody was tuning in to Civil Radio, listening to their amazing music or whatnot, listening to Emma on the air, doing Emma things on the air, and they didn't know that their end deck their cap unit was basically dead. Basically, they could activate alert ready, and then Civil wouldn't even realize that they're not sending the message. Somebody's tuned in, they don't realize that the message was sent. Yes, I know we've got cell phones, but occasionally you're not looking at your cell phone. Your cell phone could be off. It could be dead. Let's say you're in a park and your cell phone's in your car.
You're driving.
Yeah. You would not be able to tell that, and suddenly you now have a whole bunch of people who have not heard this alert. They could be in a life-threatening situation, all because somebody somewhere designed a software poorly.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Here's the thing. This was after I came in, so the box was working by then, but sorry. But in last November, we had a really catastrophic flooding event here in the Fraser Valley. We had the scientific term is a series of atmospheric rivers. Basically, the heavens opened up above us for days straight and completely flooded out a huge amount of land that on very short notice, people had to evacuate. I mean, even I very nearly found myself getting a firsthand taste of turn around, don't drown along the way. And Now, granted, the province never actually activated Alert Ready for that, for which they received a lot of grief, and they have changed that. More on that in a bit, thankfully. But that's exactly the sort of situation that, like you're talking about, Anna, there could very well be lives lost if we aren't able to relay alerts because we have a non-functioning unit and don't even realize it. Because here's the thing, our cap deck right now lives at the transmitter site, and there is other than emails that I've set up since I came here, there's no way for the box to tell us that it's doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely concerning because I know that we're certainly not the only station that just sets up the EAS or NPAS box at the transmitter and forgets about it.
It makes me wonder how many stations in both the US and Canada that have failed boxes like that. I've heard from many people that the Gorman Redlick boxes have these issues just commonly. I mean, John has a Gorman Redlick box and he doesn't even use it because it's so inconsistent.
It's also very difficult to maintain sometimes. It'll just randomly have connection concerns.
Yeah,
because at that point it should just be like turn it back into Gorman Redlick and have it fixed. I mean, that's just a public safety hazard.
Well, the issue is that it sometimes sounds like Gorman Redlick doesn't even know what's wrong with it. And I feel like that's an issue. Because
the way they phrased the email to me, I'll just pull the email up here and quote it.
I don't even know how the GR got past the FCC testing. I have no clue how that got past it, but I don't know.
Well, they only needed it to work for like 2 days.
Yes, and to be fair, it does work that long. Yeah, the exact email that I received, the exact quote was, let me see. Yes. They were still trying to chase down what could be causing the issue that I'm seeing. They can't duplicate the issue exactly here, so they're having to inspect quite a bit of code for possible causes. They don't really even know where to look.
Yeah.
Which is, at that point, just rewrite the software.
At that point, rewrite the software. At that point, like, they're so dependent on Windows. And this is quite literally this isn't just me talking from a Linux standpoint because I like Linux, but like I'm not even running Linux right now. I'm running on a Mac, and I can tell you anything is better than Windows for this. Like,
yeah,
Mac is better than Windows for this. Linux is honestly the best because you can trim down all your software to run minimally stuff. You don't need a web browser. Get rid of that. You can use SSH for login. Or you can use DW service, which is free compared to TeamViewer, what they like to use. You don't need Windows. You don't need a larger C drive. You can run it off of a thumb drive.
What's worse about the GR Cap Deck is not only does it run on Windows, it runs on Windows 10. Well, mine runs on Windows 10, and it's a 32-bit OS, so it's excruciatingly slow.
Ours runs on Windows 10 as well, but I'm not certain. I'm actually going to log into it here while I talk, since I do have DW service installed on ours now.
Because isn't that a more recent thing where you could upgrade to Windows 10?
Oh no, they had to do it because they stopped supporting Windows 7. So any security flaws in Windows 7 would still be applied to all the cap decks.
Yes, originally these all ran on 7, but I'm looking in here. Oh,
makes me
Okay,
wonder if it's something to do with the upgrade
literally-
between 7 to 10 that could have messed with it.
I could probably consider that to be true because it literally takes so long to do anything on that box. Like, it takes so long to like launch the program and download audio and like change everything. It's so slow, which might be what's causing the TTS hiccup. Is it's just timing out or some crazy stupid issue with it. It's causing the TTS to just die.
At that point, just get a DAS deck. Just use the cap on that.
I only
Yeah.
just reached the about page. During that whole period that you were talking, John, was from me logging in to finally getting here. And yes, ours is a 32-bit OS install on a 64-bit processor. But the thing that I think really gets to me, that really kind of
Is it the
that
RAM?
really brings home just how slow it is. Not only is it running a full tilt edition of Windows 10 Home, it's doing so on 1 gig of RAM.
yeah.
Which
Ouch.
here's the thing: if you run this software on Linux, even the cap deck would be pretty fast on Linux. Like, I mean, look at the DAS deck. The DAS deck is decently fast, and it runs on similar hardware.
Mm-hmm.
It runs a 32-bit OS on a 64-bit chip. I mean, the DAS deck isn't a speed demon. I'll give it that. It's not
It's not
fast.
built for it.
It's not built for it, but it's built to run constantly, and
It's built
does
to
that.
last.
It doesn't, like, I have yet to see a DAS deck actually have like a proper issue with like just going down randomly, like the cap.
Yeah, because I got my DAS deck like two months ago maybe, and it's been running since.
Yeah,
Never
I'm
had
not
to turn it
saying.
off.
Yeah, I'm not saying DAS decks are the king of index, but they're certainly up there. Like,
the biggest things you should always have on an EAS or Canadian type system is that 1, it's durable. 2, it has almost 100% uptime, if not 100%. And 3, it should always work regardless of if you small errors. It should always have a failsafe because failsafes are important.
I mean, that's what I was aiming for with my software cap deck. I was aiming for 100% uptime, which John can vouch that is not true.
It's close. It's close, but
it's close, but we're getting closer. I need to rewrite it, but
Let's just put out there on the record that Anna's cap deck is not related to the Gorman Redlick.
No,
it's
not even
better
close.
than the Gorman Redlick.
They might have the same name, but they're not the same.
I want to side note something about the Sage right here that I have, my 1822. It has only broken once, and that was because of my fault, because the power supply died. Other than that, this Sage has not had a single hardware problem whatsoever. At all.
The TFT,
It's
on
just-
the other hand,
I blew the fuse on by accident. Sorry, David, I blew the fuse, but I had to, gotta get a spare one.
the Gorman, on the other hand,
Gorman, on the other hand, it's upside down on the top of the rack right now. Like, if the cap deck's upside down right now, it's powered off.
yep.
I mean, the 1822 and the TFT in the room with me here, I've owned both of them for going on 5 years now, and they have been completely bulletproof.
Yeah, I mean,
Goes to
fuses
show that
blown
old
or
tech
anything.
works.
I mean, I honestly wish TFT was around and that their 911 Plus was actually released, which I have confirmed it has not. It hadn't been released to the public before they went defunct. But I mean, the TFT is like one of the most bulletproof encoders that I've ever seen.
Was the 911 Plus ever built? Like, did they ever build it?
They had to at least build 1 or 2, but they never actually sold them. I feel like they may have had more than that because they would have been ramping up production for whenever it actually got released, but it never got released.
You know where I bet there's probably one currently, probably defunct still. The iPods Lab in Maryland, in Maryland, the iPods
I would
Lab.
love to tour that place.
I would love to tour there too. I gotta find someone who can get me in contact with that place because I know people who probably could.
So, but for example, the two TFTs that I have here, the 911D, this thing, I got it and literally parts of it inside had literally fried, yet it still worked flawlessly. Like, the screen had been completely fried. There were resistors that had literally on the inside of the unit caught fire, yet the unit still works without any flaws. It's like, that is what I want to see from all the manufacturers. A unit that can literally catch on fire and keep working. This other 911, like, its voice recorder chip was all kinds of bent up and like damaged. I fixed the bends and it works flawlessly. Like, the fact that had a damaged card in it and just a little bit of bending got me back in using that card. That's just good design. And that is really important for
not only is it good
design,
it also goes to show that old technology still can work after this many years. It still works flawlessly. Albeit with a few missing event codes, but it still works.
Yeah.
Which I do want to fix that. I have made a backup of all my ROMs, and I'm going to be working on updating ROM. I'm going to see if I can update ROMs to support newer codes. If not, just make them a little bit more modern. I'm also working on, officially I can say it, I'm working on a hardware NDEC. It is going to be it's basically my software NDEC in a hardware box that has hardware relays and all that fancy stuff. And I'm
Do you
going
know what
to...
you're calling it yet?
So far, it's just going to go along with the ERN deck, which is actually the official name of the software NDEC. It's the ERN deck, but we haven't actually...
The ERN deck by WACN Technologies.
Yeah, we haven't actually decided on a full name. That is just what we call it, but we just call it the software NDEC because it's a software
ACN deck.
But basically, the idea is I'm going to be following the idea of I want this thing to never go down. And if it does go down, it will tell you. It will let you know.
The number of monitors the software NDEC has is yes.
Yeah. I'm planning on the hardware NDEC having a minimum of 10 monitors.
Oh God.
Oh my goodness.
Six being no, sorry. I'm planning on having 2 being built-in radios, 4 being baseband input, and being software. I haven't decided how many software ones I want yet. I am hopefully going to have a software number that makes any other NDEC look ridiculous. So I want there to be a minimum of 10, which will allow you to have 2 radio, at least 4 baseband. There's your normal 6. But then an X amount of software. I think I might limit it to something like 20 software monitors. If not, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, 20, 25 software monitors. The reason why I want to put a limit on there is not because I want to be like, hey, I don't want you to have more than 20 monitors. No, that's not it. But I'm dealing with slower hardware here. So...
Also, you don't want it to break.
Yes. I don't want, like, for example, John can vouch that if you put too many monitors into the software NDEC, it will start to get angry at you.
If you don't have enough RAM, it will literally start throwing random errors up.
Yeah.
But
it will get angry at you.
I'm currently at, I think, 100 and, let me check. I'm currently at 121 monitors, and it has not died yet.
Yeah, I can tell you 16 gigs of RAM gives you a pretty bonkers amount of monitors. For example, for another program that I'm in, John and Emma know what I'm talking about. I'm currently running around 230 monitors. I'm monitoring the entire state of Wisconsin. Every single radio station that has a stream in Wisconsin, I'm monitoring it. So that gives you an idea of just how much 16 gigs of RAM on an M1 Mac, which isn't officially supported by all the software I'm running, but it still works and it still gives you 230 monitors, and I can go way higher. It's just I feel not
and you
feel like not
you have
killing my Mac.
and you put all those monitors in, and you have still yet to get a weekly.
Yep. But the a good idea is I want to at least have like 100, not 100, but like maybe limit it at 50, because I'm planning on. I don't know if I want to go something like a Raspberry Pi or a Latte Panda, or if I want to go something like what Daz has done, where it's like a more specialist motherboard that has like GPIO and stuff built in. I'm leaning towards Latte Panda because it allows me to program it, and Latte Pandas are stupid fast, but they're also pretty expensive. We're talking $200 for one board. And for development purposes, I want to keep this NDEC cheap, like relatively cheap. I still do want to make a profit, because making a profit allows me to make more NDECs. Because if you think about it, if I build an NDEC and then sell it for the exact same price, I'm at a loss. I make the exact price of that NDEC. I'm not taking into account any resources I used to build it. I'm not taking in account any like power that I needed to do it, any of my time. So if I sell it back for like the price of the NDEC plus 15-20% more, all I need to do is sell 5 NDECs. Boom, I've recovered my cost. And I've recovered the cost for each NDEC, but then I can keep making more NDECs. But yeah, the idea is I'm going to make it as reliable as possible, as cheap as possible. I want this NDEC to be cheaper than the Gorman-Rudlick cap deck, which starts at 1,000.
Starts.
Yeah.
Starts.
Well, does it even start up? It doesn't work half the time. Anyway, so I think it's time to move back to the topic that this is more Emma here. So Emma, I keep mixing the two names up, man. So Alert Ready in British Columbia was updated to include wildfires and floods.
Yes, we had the announcement about the same time as the public test earlier this month. So in the past, the province actually severely underutilized the Alert Ready system, in my opinion. I mentioned earlier on the flooding that hit the Fraser Valley really badly in November, and how the system was never activated for that. It was also never activated for the really bad wildfires that we had last year in the interior of the province. Well, they have announced that this year that is changing on both fronts. Now, not only will the system be used for tsunami warnings and amber alerts, it will also be used for flood warnings and for wildfires. And starting next month, they're also going to use it for extreme heat events. So if we have another heat dome that pushes our temperatures up towards the 40-degree mark, and that's Celsius for the record. I know the Canadian stereotype is that we love our icebox up here, but 40 Fahrenheit is still cold here.
Yeah,
but
wasn't so they implemented floods right away, correct? And then they're implementing wildfire in June, right?
Floods and wildfires are implemented now. Extreme heat, the intention is to implement it next month. That's what Mike Farnsworth, our Minister of Public Safety, said. Okay.
Minister of Public Safety just sounds like an amazing job.
Yes, he's essentially the provincial emergency manager.
Yeah. Yo, my job is to make sure you're safe.
Yep.
Doesn't use
whether you like it or not.
Yeah, our Ministry of Public Safety oversees a variety of things here. At the federal, just at the provincial level, the minister is in charge of the police, fire, the BC ambulance service, road safety, and public alerting.
Wow.
Sounds like any normal EOC, but just one guy.
Yep.
Well, he has an entire government department under him, but yes.
Could you just imagine if it's just that one guy controlling the entire province?
Oh my goodness, that would
I
be.
feel like
I don't know that. I don't know. I feel like if that were the case, I would have to decline any offers to join cabinet down in Victoria.
I feel like it's
Emma,
good for them.
Please tell me that they won't start doing please make sure that they won't start doing New Hampshire daily tests.
Oh,
That's
gosh.
Alberta. That's Alberta now.
That's Alberta. Alberta has done a daily silent test of Alberta Emergency Alert for years, but unlike New Hampshire, those don't really go anywhere. I've seen them show up in the logs on the open broadcaster that I have on my ERN station, but no one relays them.
Mm-hmm.
The system even generates TTS for them, but no one relays them.
Yeah.
That if
honestly, I'm so glad we blocked New Hampshire's. I mean, well, doesn't Marley send them?
I'm so glad that everyone with sophisticated filters has blocked the New Hampshire State Police and the New Hampshire Department of Homeland Security.
So when I first joined
the New Hampshire Emergency Alert System,
funny story. So
I'm pretty sure every single participant in NERP still sends New Hampshire because
I don't know. I don't pay attention enough.
Yeah, when I first got into ERN, it was someone told me, I can't remember exactly who, told me to put the state of New Hampshire's FIPS code in my TFT auto relay.
Probably Marley.
Marley.
No, it was Marley. Yeah, and I wish I would have monitored her while I first joined, because that would have been pretty funny.
Marley told me I should sell my GR units. I'm like, I could, but
Hey, I'll take your
edition doesn't work half the time.
WACN Technologies will formally take your GR unit just to reverse engineer it and just laugh at GR for making bad index.
I mean, they already have, so.
Yeah, I know.
I will
continue to laugh at them for making bad index. I want to reverse engineer the GR.
You know, it's really funny. I have opened up all my units except for the EAS-1. I have not opened it up yet. I've opened up everything except for the GR stuff, because the GR stuff is,
You'll break it even more.
God help me! I don't want to know what's in there. Probably just the hamster on the wheel.
That's the TFT fuses.
No, the TFT fuses are really good. I was just stupid. Yeah. I'm always stupid, but that was mega stupid.
The ultimate power move would be to sell your GR units to the New Hampshire State Police, and then we don't have to put up with them anymore.
How can their alerts get out? Oh no!
Perfect gamer move.
We should talk about how bad GRs are by the example of that station the other day that tried to send one tornado warning, and it took them 14 tries to actually get the alert out. They sent 14 headers. 14 sets of headers. That means 14 sets of 3 headers and a tension tone, and they took that long. It took them a good 17 minutes to actually send the alert.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
You want to know how bad a GR is? There's your explanation.
Answer.
Here's the thing, though. If it was 14 sets of 3 headers, now, granted, it's been a long time since I've studied my multiplication tables, but the last time I remember, 14 times 3 was 42. So clearly, the Gorman-Redlich EAS-1 is the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything.
Oh, gosh.
Now, here's the question. How many EOMs?
Hey, Emma.
How many EOMs did it send?
Emma.
Wasn't it only 3?
Yes.
It only sent... No. I think it sent a total of 4 or 5 sets of EOMs. It barely sent EOMs. But, hey, Emma, what is the essence of sin?
KCAM. I swear, if that station wasn't in the middle of nowhere in rural Alaska, I'm pretty sure there would be people monitoring it just for the meme, just to see if there could be similarly amusing coincidences on air the next time Alaska does a monthly test.
This is the required monthly test of the emergency alert system for the entire state of Alaska.
Effective until 4:10 p.m. or whatever time it was.
I'm going to side note this, but I consider Mnet two types of Mnets: the short Mnet and the long Mnet. The short Mnet is the the crappy one, but the long Mnet is the AT&T mic stuff, which we finally know is actually Mnet because it's Mnet, and it's actually more sophisticated than you'd think, because when WQLN took a flash flood warning earlier, instead of saying 12:33 p.m., it said effective until tomorrow at 33 minutes past midnight, which I would never expect it to say that, but it said it. It said it. I have the audio. It said it.
I always liked the shorter version more, and that's probably fortunate considering that's all I ever heard in Georgia. Since half the stations there only took that instead of NWR.
Well, if you like the long version and you just like the crisp, nice Craig voice or the AT&T mic voice, it's perfect. It says debris and Don T when it says those two words. It's
turn around.
Excellent.
Don T drown.
Don T drown.
Well, to be fair, Peachtree City's NWR says it that way too.
That's true.
Speaking of things that don't work, you guys want to move on to the next topic?
Oh boy, my favorite.
Oh, what now?
All right. So, excuse me there. So, we got a false WEA alert in LA County.
Oh boy, I can feel this one.
So, let me read out this article here by LA Times. So, the WEA alert said, Chevy Chase Canyon residents, safely evacuate your home and proceed to evacuation site located at Glendale Community College parking lot B. There was no emergency. The alert was sent in error as part of a pre-planned safety drill. And then they had to send a follow-up WEA saying, disregard safety alert, training exercise only. This kind of gives me vibes of the Hawaii false missile alert, but way more calm.
I feel like I know how this happened. I feel I know exactly how this happened.
You can't get mad at them for messing it up. Like mistakes are of human nature. I mean, exactly. I've done something similar where, like, whenever I first got my fancy Google phone, it was helping me set up like the life safety thing. So it's like I click the power button 5 times and it'll automatically call the cops after 15 seconds. The issue is, like, you can go into a menu to test that. What it doesn't tell you is you need to click the cancel button as soon as it comes up. Because otherwise, like, what happens is you click the power button once and it closes down the screen. And you click it 4 more times and it brings up the real screen. So what wound up happening is it took me doing this to realize, oh crap, I just actually called the cops. Like, I didn't realize what happened. I didn't realize what happened until I heard 911, what's your emergency? And I was like, click. Then they called me. No. I realized it started to dial out and I immediately hung up. And then they called me back and I was like, oh yeah, it's just my phone. They're like, yeah, it happens all the time. So
once again, more documentation should be given. Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not surprised. Maybe they were setting up a new WEA system or they were training some new people and they just didn't realize they were in their actual public
I have a suspicion, and it's something like that. I talked to an emergency manager up in Baltimore County that does a lot of like alert system knowledge, and they have it has most alert distribution networks like Everbridge and OneNet have a live environment and test environment. Yes. And they probably forgot to set it to test environment because that typically goes to the FEMA test iPod server. So they must have accidentally sent it to the live one. Like once a blue alert got sent out for all of I believe it was Missouri once, and it was a test alert, and it sent out the live blue alert WIA code to like the entire state of Missouri. So it's not you're not the only one, LA County. You're not the only one.
I mean, if you actually tune into the iPOS live environment, if you tune into the iPOS test environment, it's insane. Like you literally, like if you tune into the dev environment, you get like alerts back to back to back. Like it's like every 15 minutes they send an earthquake warning. It's weird.
New Hampshire demo.
That's honestly where they should send it. Like honestly, there's a reason why the dev environment exists.
Is there a way to like see that?
The dev environment?
Yeah.
Sadly, no. You need an iPOS key.
Damn it. Well,
Like-
we have an iPOS key, but like...
Yeah, I have an iPOS key for ERN. We actually got an iPOS key for development of our software CapTech. But iPOS keys are basically like a password. You don't want other people knowing them. So
Understandable. Set up the log. I remember you guys had a logger for that at one point in the channel.
yeah, I could set that up again. I mean, it's fun.
I remember seeing Fairfax County sending a blue alert, and I'm like, wait, since when do you pricks have iPOS capabilities? Because Fairfax County has never used iPOS once. It's so funny.
Well, there's a
speaking
first
of-
time for everything.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of first time for everything, 911 Authority in Colorado Springs overshot an alert through WIA, and it sent. Well, they sent out a fire warning over WIA, and so there was about 20 homes in the path of a fire, but it ended up sending it to over 500 homes. So I feel like it's the same situation there, but
Yeah.
Your polygon needs more. Your polygon needs more polygons.
Yeah, exactly. Polygon inside of a polygon. But the system is out of commission until an investigation is complete. I haven't seen any more updates on it, but
What I feel like it could have done is, if you know how WIA works, it basically selectively targets cell towers that send out those messages. So what could have happened is they went to send out the message, right? They select it, but it selected cell towers on like the brink or maybe like one out of the area, and maybe they hit like a little bit more of the area that they were intending, like set off a few cell towers that covered quite a bit more area, you know?
so it was
I can
probably
see
just
that.
there was maybe one tower that just barely overlapped in.
Yeah.
And that's
So
Or
one
it's
maybe
of
something
there's a
that you
few.
can't really avoid.
Yeah, maybe there's a few. So
that's one of my major concerns, because I've been watching with fire season. I've been watching a lot of these WIA alerts that have gone out, and I've been very concerned because a lot of them, the local authorities are putting out messages that are remarkably vague. Like instead of telling you that there's a fire and that residents in and near X road, Y road, Z road need to evacuate to this location, they'll just say, evacuation warning, prepare to leave, call XYZ number for more information. And at that point, if you have a geofencing issue like that, you're going to create panic.
Well,
Yeah, exactly.
there's I actually, again with that same person and also reading through the iPOS requirements, it's very difficult sometimes. I'm not saying like for everyone, but like there are still phones that only have 90 characters of wireless burn seal instead of the 360 that are now more common. So if they use that WIA text for their iPOS like EAS type alert, it's why I know like you could just have a specific text for the EAS and have a specific text for the wireless emergency alert if you wanted to, and have like the EAS be more specific and more like full of information, which they should do. But
Yeah, exactly.
that's one big thing about, I know iPOS training, like be specific, but don't be too vague. If you be too vague, you can't get the message passed.
One thing that I do know for a fact, because I had to deal with this whenever programming, there's 2 separate areas for that. There is a CMAM text and CMAM long text. That's what we use for our ERN logging system. If the long text doesn't exist, we use a short text. If the long text does exist, use that. So basically, what
if
you can
actually
do is you can
if
have
you
a short message saying call XYZ number for information of this alert for specific details. That would make sense for the short text. Don't put that in the long text. The long text has enough characters to put the entire description.
If you actually go on the warn.pbs.org website and you look at all of the wireless emergency alerts, like I just pulled up one from San Miguel County, and it has both a long and short WIA.
Yeah.
And they're not like very, very specific, but like the long ones, like immediate evacuations for these towns, evacuation route to this. And the short one just lists the locations, which is a little bit difficult to understand. But the long WIA text is definitely better. But like I said, the short is 90 characters. So you got to work with what you got. So it's difficult. I know the pain. I understand. I understand it happens sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly feel like what they should do is they should use both of them. And honestly, the only time that says call XYZ number, the only time it makes sense is if you're doing it in the short text. Because then what they can do is just say, like, for example, evacuation warning. Evacuate this, send an evacuation warning, like EVI. And then in the description of the short text, fire warning. Like fire evacuation, call this number for more info. In the short text,
you could also
in the long text say fire evacuation from this road to this road to this road. Go to here, evacuate now.
You could also link a website too, because the WIA supports URL websites now.
Yeah.
So you can I've seen it a couple of times. Like it links a website, and if you go to that website, there's a map, like maps. Maps information, zones affected, and like instructions, and like if you need assistance, call this number, or like more information, call this number. So if you link a website, accessibility is okay. Information is a lot better than just the WIA. So the WIA is a supplemental to the website as well, and as well on top of the WIA, you'll have your own county-based level alerting systems, like alerts from your county. Like mine's Fairfax Alerts. Like it's like county-based systems. Hosted by the one and only Everbridge, or OnSolve. Everbridge is better.
Another thing. Continue.
This actually has me thinking back to this really fascinating document I read not too long ago. It was from the Australian Institute for Disaster Resilience, and it was talking about how they should be building emergency warnings there for things like bushfires and such. It was very interesting because a lot of their advice went directly against how we approach warnings here in North America, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Like when they talk about the language to use, they say that you should personalize the message. So instead of saying, for instance, people and animals outdoors will be injured, then it could be, if you are outdoors, you could be injured. And instead of saying property, say home. And don't talk about death explicitly. Just say there's a risk to lives and homes. It was very interesting. But when they got into geography was when it really started going against the grain, because their number one piece of advice was do not warn based on local government. So do not warn based on counties. Do not warn based on the, I forget what the county equivalents are in Australia. I think it varies by state, but yeah, don't warn based on that. That
is sad but true, because Virginia tried to send an Amber Alert, and part of their Amber Alert circle went into West Virginia, and it literally crashed their alerting software because they couldn't alert for West Virginia. It literally crashed their software. It's really funny. They told me it too. I'm like, what the fuck? You literally have a giant system here, and it can't do one thing. It's to get the wireless alert out.
Well, here's the thing. Here's their logic. When they did research, they found that a lot of people were not entirely aware of what local government area they were in. And it makes a lot of sense to me, especially if you're getting the warning and you don't live there. You might not know that you're in Fairfax County, but you're going to know that you live in Chantilly. Or you might not know that you're in Cascade County, but you're going to know that you're by Malmstrom Air Force Base. Mm-hmm. So in that sense,
that's the biggest. Yeah.
In that sense, it makes a lot of sense. And they talk about that the more specific you can make it, the better. You need to, and how, like, let's say that I know that there isn't one, but let's say that there's a nuclear power plant in Waukesha, and they have an emergency there. Then the advice that they give is start naming in rings going out, proximity to the threat. So name off towns that would be affected as like Waukesha, Pewaukee, Brookfield, New Berlin, Sussex, Dowsman, so on and so forth. I'm kind of running out of town names in that area. But it was a very different approach. But honestly, considering how many instances we've seen, like James Spann has talked about this, that so many of people who watch him don't know what county they're in Alabama, it makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And I think it would help with circumstances like this where you have geofencing problems.
Yeah,
the more specific you can make it, the better.
Huh.
Oh, and as we always like to say, be prepared and know where you are. Those are the most important things. Know where you are.
Yes, there is no substitution for simple spatial awareness.
I know, right? Mm-hmm. Me in like every single theme park be like, where is the bathroom? You could never find those. Oh my god. I swear to God, you literally can't.
Have you heard of a pool? No, I'm kidding.
Oh God.
Who hasn't?
Yeah, when I was old enough to understand just what went on at water parks with regards to that, I suddenly regretted every time I'd ever gone into the pool at Water Country USA.
All right.
Well, I think with that, it's we're about time to wrap up. What do you guys think? You guys got anything else you guys would like to talk about, or?
I think we ticked all the boxes.
Interface.
I mean, the one big thing for me is if you're in DC and you rely on DC for the monthly EAS test and you're not licensed to near or in DC, you are now required to relay your state monthly test, which will either be Virginia or Maryland, depending on which side of the annoying river you live on. So, yeah, have fun. Don't break your index. Not like someone's already done that, but yeah, DC stuff.
WSBN.
Also, here's my tip to any manufacturer who decides to listen to this for some reason: don't use proprietary power connectors. I will hunt you down.
Do you want to mention that briefly before we take off here?
I bought a Marshall screen. It had a proprietary connector that pissed me off, so I decided to take it out because it's a proprietary connector that I absolutely hate. So I took it out. So
didn't you replace it with like Just two wires.
Yeah, it's just 2 wires poking out the back, and I'm hopefully going to be replacing them with like a terminal blocky thing. But until then,
Nice.
yeah, it's just 2 wires hanging out the back. But yeah,
As you like to say,
if you're
as
a
you like to say,
manufacturer and you use proprietary connectors, I will hunt you down.
Yep.
Anna is literally the definition of modern problems require modern solutions. I swear. I swear.
Yeah, exactly. like look at the end deck. It's
Modern
like
problem.
she said in
Missing
like
ROM.
she said in
I'm gonna make my own, bitch.
end deck issues. I'm gonna make my own.
And when in doubt, set it on fire.
That's the solution
Yes.
to everything.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up there. So
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So if you would like more information on the GWES ERN network, you could check out GWES-EAS.network. If you're looking for more information on GWES, you could go to globaleas.org. And yeah, we're switching to a weekly schedule now. So
We hope.
I know we sound kooky, but we know what we're talking about mostly.
Most of the time.
Mostly.
We cannot confirm.
I mean,
but we have a good idea.
three out of 4 people in here actually work at or volunteer for stations, so we know what we're talking about. And then we have John.
And then we just have me, who just knows people.
Yeah, John just talks directly to the NWS because he feels like it.
I talked directly to WTOP's engineer director and also to a lot of people in emergency management. So I know a couple things.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're like-minded like us, you could join the net. You could apply to join the network at GWES-EAS.network. We'd love to hear from you.
We love
Yeah,
to join
it.
more the new people.
Join
If you join, you'll have a greater than 10% chance of getting a software end deck. You
Greater
cannot
than
join
5%
with a
chance.
software end deck though.
You have a
Hardware
greater than
index
5%. You have a greater than 5% chance of losing your mind within the first 10 minutes of joining.
Yep.
Maybe.
But you'll get a free virtual cookie. So that makes
I know,
it
right?
worth it.
We love free cookies.
You want a cookie? Join ERN. No promise of
thanks.
cookie though.
So yeah, thanks to everyone for listening to this video. Thank you, John and Emma, for joining the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having
Happy
It
me.
was
to be
great having
here.
you guys here. We hope that we can have you again sometime soon. But yeah, this is the GWES ERN podcast, and we will see you next week.
Ciao.